It's so wonderful to see all of you out there, your faces, even with all the masks on. I'm starting to recognize the eyes. So if I'm staring at you, don't think I'm like trying to give you the glare or anything. I'm just trying to soak in everyone and their expressions and their faces, especially those of you who I haven't met. So welcome to our Dharma talk this evening. I'm going to provide some introductory comments for you. My name is Rhonda. I'm a member of the organizing team. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm from Baltimore, but I live in Nashville, Tennessee. Nashville, Tennessee, the original lands of the Cherokee, Choctaw, Ute plus peoples. So I am tasked tonight with offering you some context for Deepening Our Roots, which is the theme of the retreat, and linking it to the beautiful, refreshing, solemn, joyful practice that we had ancestral opening ceremony earlier today. So Deepening Our Roots, we had as an organizing team, over 20 plus meetings. Just exciting, right? You all want to join next year? Really deep conversations about what it means to host a BIPOC retreat, what it means to host a BIPOC-only retreat, what it means to host a BIPOC retreat at the monastery, what it means for each of us on the organizing team of different racial, ethnic identities and gender identities and sexual orientations and expressions to be working together to bring this retreat to bear. And Deepening Our Roots is about how do we come together as BIPOC people. We often have conversations about BIPOC and non-BIPOC. And those conversations are really important because those conversations allow us to begin to ferret out and to excavate so that we can eradicate in the context of our practice of gentleness, love, and compassion, and not duplicating the very thing we're trying to get rid of. Right? To do that, we have to talk about BIPOC to non-BIPOC and what those systems of power are and those oppressive tendencies are. But we rarely get a chance, an intentional chance to come together as BIPOC and talk about how we as BIPOC people heal together, come together as a collectivity, and also understand that part of that healing is also a part of excavating and understanding and moving through and healing how we may also harm and hurt each other in all of our intersectionality, in all of our BIPOC identities, along multiple axes, race and ethnicity, LGBTQIA+, and more. And so Deepening Our Roots was born out of the idea that we come together as BIPOC people to heal and joyfully engage with each other in the BIPOC space. And not necessarily, we can't ever get away from talking about non-BIPOC, but not necessarily forecasting that, right? Because sometimes that recenters the very thing that sometimes we need space to heal from. And so the Deepening Our Roots is the container. That is what the container is grounded in. That's what it's planted in. That's the roots that you see in the picture. That's the theme, vulnerable stability. That is the name of the artwork. That is beloved community. That's King. That's Thai. That's Sister Chan Kong. That's Bell Hooks, who was a student of Thai's. and so many others. And so the ancestral altar opening ceremony was a way for us not to only connect to our roots as individuals, as groups, racial and ethnic affinities that we have, right, in the Black community, in the Latinx community, in the indigenous community, in the multiracial community, in the Asian descendant community. But it was also a way for us to put our ancestors in conversation with each other and let them meet each other and convene on the altar so that the energies could mix and they could have the conversations they need to have while we're having the conversations we need to have with each other in a way that helps us to heal and be joyful, and in a way that honors and invites us to share how we can connect and also to share where we might be hurting because of how we may relate across BIPOC identities. And so I give you this context so that you understand even more deeply what deepening our roots as a theme is about, where the ancestral altar fits in this iteration, and to also give you some context for some of the intentional work so that you understand all that behind the scenes stuff that happened with the creation of the space that you all are co-creating with us. And so the Dharma sharing groups are groups that were intentionally formed with a lot of love and painstaking, joyful meetings where we actually sat down and said, you know, we want people to be able to see each other in the Dharma sharing groups. So I'm a Black woman. I want to look out and be able to see another Black person. I move through a world in which anti-Black racism is real. And I've experienced it everywhere my body has been. Everywhere my body has been. Everywhere my body has been and is. And so I want to look out and see another person. And we thought about the same thing for Asian descendant, LGBTQIA+, indigenous, multiracial. And so we spent a lot of time really putting those groups together so that these Dharma sharing groups could be the spaces where we could both meet each other, deepen our roots together, heal and transform, love on each other, be joyful and kind to each other, and get to know each other enough where maybe we can begin to open up to deal with some of the other things that may emerge in relationship to each other. Because that's the only way we can move together, is to begin to expose and to deal with very sensitively and honorably and honestly those issues, those subjects, those topics that may emerge. And yet there's joy. This is normally my voice, but I'm trying not to speed up so, I can keep everything clear. And so I want you to know that's what your Dharma sharing groups are. If you look around your Dharma sharing groups and begin to take in the diversity of your groups, that was intentional. Oftentimes, when we go down the names of the here's 8, here's 9, here's 10, here. And we did something a little different. And we have affinity groups where they are based on race and ethnicity, LGBTQIA+. And we know that people can cross all of these different groups and we have to make choices. But we wanted a both and moment. We wanted to have both. So we also know that people want more time in those affinity groups. We've heard it. We want you to know we've heard it. And the OT team has begun to discuss it. And we're looking into what changes can be made, and there will be changes made. We had a discussion in the room, yeah, let's acknowledge it. I was like, yeah. We can acknowledge it, but we gonna do something? We gotta do something. So we're gonna do something, and we'll make an announcement tomorrow. We'll make an announcement tomorrow what that something is, so that we can keep a both and moment. We can go deep across, and we can go deep, whichever across you want it, deep, down, you want, this is the dance moment. This is like a hairy moment, no, okay. The jokester, Brother Dukban moment, bring the wit and the levity. Oh, dear brother. So, that's deepening our roots. That's just a little bit of it. And our dear Dharma teachers, we talked about this before, so I'm not taking their time, y'all. They gave me time to share this with you all so we could set the container, so we can understand what the theme is, so we can understand how we're moving in the space, so that we can honor the space, so that we can make the most of the space that we have, so that we can be brave and courageous enough to open up in the space, and so that we can take care of ourselves when we're not yet ready to open up in the space, to listen deeply and support and hold the space for others. So deepening our roots, the inaugural BIPOC retreat at Magnolia Grove Monastery, your Dharma sharing groups, your affinity groups, and the ancestral altar, we're all working together on multiple levels of energy and spirit. And keep it joyful and laugh. And, if you're not boisterous sometimes like I am, I got to check myself. Laugh deep inside, but, let it out. There's plenty of space out here. When Brother Fop Block said, what is it awareness? Is it relaxation? I'm the one that said, smile. That was me in the back. And so we got to continue to do that. We smile to our joy, and with our joy, we smile to our pain and embrace it, knowing that we're going to heal it and transform it, and we can do that even better if we work together. Oh, that sounded good. Shall we do that together? Let me introduce your Dharma teachers so I can scurry over here and take it all in. So we have BK. BK is an artist, counselor, and Dharma teacher in the Plum Village tradition. BK uses they, them, and we pronouns. And BK wrote, when these pronouns are used for them, they feel more breath and peace. BK ordained in the Order of Interbeing in 2006 and received the Dharma Teacher Lamp transmission in 2021. BK calls themselves a baby Dharma teacher. But you'll see how deep BK goes. You got the weight, And we have our dear beloved Sister Peace. Sister Peace is a native Washingtonian. I have my notes, y'all, because I can talk. And y'all don't want to hear me talk more. I know y'all want to hear them. Sister Peace is a native Washingtonian, and that means DC. Sister Peace uses she, her pronouns. Sister Peace began living in Plum Village, France, in that community in 2006. She ordained in 2008 and received the Dharma Teacher Lamp transmission in 2017. In 2017, she returned to the States, joined the Magnolia Grove Monastery community for a couple of years, and now lives nearby in Memphis, Tennessee. So, dear ones, I'm going to scurry off. Deep bows of gratitude and appreciation to you for your deep listening and even your chuckles. And I'm going to turn it over to BK and Sister Peace. Blessings.
Rana, do you mind sticking up here for just so we can send you some love? Would you like some love?
I like love. I thought he was going to ask me to say something else. I thought they were going to ask me to say something else. See what happens when I speed up, BK?
Just everybody love on Rana, because she's done so much work for this retreat and we wouldn't have been here without her. So please. Respected Thai teacher. Friends, there's like a well inside of me that doesn't have an end. So I have to tell myself sometimes, okay, don't go there because it's not going to stop. You know, and when I think of Thai, whenever I say, dear Thai, that well is watered. And I think sometimes it's a good thing to cry. And sometimes it's like, okay, I'm done. I'm not going to do it. I might do it a little bit, and I encourage you to also feel compelled to go with the urge to cry, to weep, even if you need to weep. And this is a place to do that because we build a Sangha together. It's that holds our tears and holds our pain. And in a retreat where we come together and we have a specific theme of deepening our roots, stuff naturally is going to arise in us. That's just the matter of fact. And when we come across differences especially, and this stuff is going to come up. And I know in myself, I'll speak for myself, even within myself, there's differences that I negotiate. Like, what in the heck? Like, my back is saying one thing, my shoulder is saying another thing, my anger is saying one thing. I might have two sides of my anger or many sides of my anger going in different contexts and different directions. So this practice, awareness, calm, relax, ease, letting go, here, now, smile, you choose. And you keep making choices. Every step, every breath, everything that you're doing, that's the practice. And so I don't really have anything to teach. I mean, maybe as a Dharma teacher you say things like that. But it's true. because it's your teaching. And the Buddha, I'm told, said that at one of his last breath, be a lamp unto yourself. You can hear my words, BK's words, but I wouldn't trust them. Trust yourself and let that be the foundation of your path. You can choose which way you turn. Like, I'm going to listen to this person, I'm going to listen to this sound, I'm going to listen to this voice, and that nourishes. Do what nourishes you. Do what heals you on your path, on your journey. That's the only advice that I have. Antidote. But I'm gonna do what I know how to do, is sing. And I'm in the lights, so it's like, yeah, take the space, feel the heat of the lamps. I don't have internet on the. Does anybody have internet on this retreat? Ooh, it's like a test. Who has the internet? I intentionally didn't have the internet, so I couldn't look up things. But there's some. I've been giving a lot of talks since Thai transition. Maybe 3 months ago? Has it been 3, 2? I don't know the number, but it's been really busy. And particularly in BIPOC spaces, needing teachers to help be there to support us in our grief, our mourning, our transition with Thai. So it's very important that we're there for each other in times like these. And I have pins on my, one is the they, them, gender, from Gender Justice League, they, them. And I have this my Sangha made because we couldn't get to the monastery, so we had our own pins made of the memorial pin. And then I have a pin from my aunt who passed away at the beginning of this pandemic of the COVID. She passed away, and we reconciled with her because we hadn't seen her for maybe 15 years. And then we got some of her stuff, and so I put her with me. This is her angel. This is my aunt. Does anybody know Nina Simone? Fans, the fans who you might know this quote. Her definition of freedom. Do you remember the definition? I define freedom as non-fear. Non-fear. So this practice that I read out of this book, Peaceful Action, Open Heart, talks about the gift of non-fear. And it comes from a very well-known Buddhist discourse called the Lotus Sutra, which I'm not very familiar. So I'm just going to talk about it, and then maybe some of the monastics or somebody who knows about it can share more in the other times. And I wrote this song because I was invited to write a song about the 5 sounds. So I'm going to talk about it, and I'm going to sing it. And I need your help too. So, I have to think. Okay, let's do. I'm gonna ask to do first. If you feel comfortable, if this feels right for you, like. Just gotta feel the energy. See, the song isn't coming through. I don't know if it's stage fright or if it's just not coming through. Maybe I gotta stand up. Okay, I'm gonna stand. Would you like to stand? Would anyone like to stand? Okay. Keep it going, because it comes from you. The song comes from you. And that's the way I work as a musician, as an artist. I'm not singing just for myself. It's for you. Ooh. So I'm going to sing, but if you would like to continue. Ooh. I'm stepping. I've got the energy. You got to feel the energy. Sound. Ooh, sound of one looking deeply into the world. Extraordinary sound, sound of the rising tide, the sound to which we will always listen. Sound of wonder, noble sound, sound of one looking deeply into the world. Extraordinary sound, sound of the rising tide, the sound to which we will always listen. Homage to Avalokiteshvara. Homage to Avalokiteshvara. Homage to Avalokiteshvara. The sound of wonder is the sound of the bell. Like a sound of wonder, because when we have the verse, when you invite the sound of the bell and you hear the sound of the bell, listen, this wonderful sound brings me back to my true home, or sometimes I like to say my true heritage. The sound of wonder, all the wonders. So how many sounds you hear just in this retreat. Rhonda's words is like a wonderful sound. And it helps bring me back to all the places that I could go, and then I come back. And so the sound, I underline the sound because it doesn't have to be with the sense of related to the ear. When I feel a sound, when I hear a sound is felt too. Like Tay shared about the sound of silence. He has a whole book on silence called Silence, the sound of silence. When we're sitting together, I feel the well inside me, because your silence is so deep that it's very healing for me to hear that sound of when we're together with the sound of silence. It's a wonder. It's a wonderful sound. It's an extraordinary sound because it's a healing sound. It's a sound that is not like silenced sound. It's like the sound of us, we're practicing together to bring a little bit of more, less suffering into this place. There's a noble sound, sometimes it's said like the Brahma sound, the sound of the universe. Om, sometimes it's this noble sound, the sound that is noble. Sound of one looking, I was like, what is the sound of one looking deeply into the world? It's like, is that like when we're meditating and there's a certain quality of the space in a room when we are practicing together? And I'm not a very good, I don't like the way I draw, so if someone has other pictures, I wrote a bell for this. But the practice, I have one example of this practice of sound of one looking deeply into the world. When we used to practice with Thai for the formal meal ceremony especially, Thai will wait for everyone to gather, and then there's a particular moment where the bell is invited. And I've read a little bit on that practice that Thai offers. When the energy is just in the right place, where you can, and Thai was wonderful in bringing us together in that way. It's when the energy was. Sound of the Rising Tide, I think that's the name of this building, right? Rising Tide. My mom, how many people like the beach? Are you beach people, son? My mother's, I'll bring my mother's name into the, my mother's name is Elizabeth. And she is the eldest daughter of Martha. And they're both alive and well. And we come from a place called, our family lineage is a place called Kakas in Indonesia, what is now called Indonesia. And we come from the Minahasan people and the Tolor tribe. So my mom really likes the beach. I don't know if it's related to being born in Indonesia. She likes heat a lot too. But she said one of the places that she doesn't feel any stress is at the beach, because something about the rhythm of the waves that comes in, it just takes away everything else. She can't think of all the stress that she has, whatever ways that she has had oppression or violence in her life. It's just like, woo. That's what I think of the rising tide. And this name, Avalokiteshvara, it's the name, and this name of the practice of the Bodhisattva enlightened being. You, all 50-something of us are Bodhisattvas, enlightening beings. And because I talk about Avalokita, because Avalokita has the name, one who looks deeply into the world to relieve suffering. The action of Avalokita is responding to the suffering that they experience, and to be able to show up in many different ways in order to relieve suffering. So Thai says that Avalokiteshvara is neither male nor female. It's the other reason why I really like Avalokiteshvara, because Avalokiteshvara manifests in many different ways, but it is a practice. They have this Dharma name because that's what they practice. And Thai says it is also a practice in you. It's not just a name, it's how you practice with that compassion in yourself, responding to suffering, looking deeply into the world and responding to it with the open heart, with the compassion. Peaceful Action, Open Heart is the name of the book. And for professors in the room, I had the citation, publisher, year, and the page numbers. I know who to look at. Some to make sure I've got all that taken care of. When the Buddha, I think Thai Phap Lak, so you notice this. It's a continuation. This is supposed to be the earth, and there's statues around. I think if I know right, they're from Indonesia, and they're from a place made from lava and stone from this place where there's one of the largest Buddhist statue or Buddhist monuments, Borobudur, on the island of Java. And we had a pleasure and the privilege of traveling with Thai in 2010 to Indonesia. That was a homecoming for me and my family. So there's a Buddha with the hand touching the earth. It said that after the 49 days of sitting the Bodhi tree, the Buddha touched the earth, may the earth be my witness. And the earth shook. And let all beings know there's a Buddha in the world for you to come receive teachings from. Because the earth knew. The earth is so intelligent that we're going to come receive these teachings. So everybody... And that happened a couple nights before you got here. No, I'm serious. There was a huge thunderstorm. This is my first time in Mississippi. This is my first time. I've been to Texas and Florida and then skipped in the middle. So this is the first time I flew into Memphis and came into Mississippi, and there was a thunderstorm, and this thunder didn't stop. It just kept rolling. Have you heard that thunder before? It just kept rolling, and I live in a little cabin here, and the whole cabin is only on little cinder blocks, and it was just it knew you were coming, and it had to wake us up so we could come receive the teachings from you. So that's what I feel this song is about. And when you bring up the image of Avalokiteshvara, in the image that you see them, her, Zur, she, whatever form Avalokiteshvara takes for you, it can be an image to help bring you back. That is the purpose, that is why, and it is an energy and quality inside of you. So these practices, awareness, calm, relax, letting go, here now, smile, walking, we have so many, eating, meditation, they help in that endeavor. And we do it together. That's a beautiful thing. I'm going to stop here, and because I want to hear some stories too. Is that okay? Okay. So maybe we'll hear a sound of the bell. And this talk will continue as we practice together. Thank you.
Dear respected Thai, dear respected Sister Chan Kong, dear respected teachers, ancestors, what a joy to be here. And I'm just going to go right into it. So BK just talked about compassion, and I have a little something I want to connect with that. I've had the blessing, the good fortune, the precious opportunity to have worked with our Black youth in jail. Youth, children. They call it juvenile detention, but it's a jail for children from 12 to 17. And when I first started working with the kids, there was so much we didn't know, and it was a good thing we didn't, because so much grew from that. And if there's time, I'll come back to this story. But the most important part is every time I walked up the steps to the jail, I felt like I was coming home. Like I was coming back home to see my cheering, as my mother used to say, my cheering. And when I've shared with others that this is what I've done, there would be sometimes horror, or guys, what? You went to prison? No, I went to jail. Even I didn't know the difference until I started working with the young boys and some of the girls. So jail is where they're held because they can't afford bail. Prison comes after the sentence has been handed down. Too many of them in jail because of that reason. And when people will express fear to me, I didn't quite understand, because like I said, when I walked up those steps, like these steps right out here, I was going home. I felt joy. And when I was with them, and through mindfulness and the creative arts, to be able to help them get in touch with their stories and share them in so many different ways, well, then the well of my compassion fell out. That's how I describe true compassion. It just fell out. And there was all that compassion that I could see and I couldn't see, but I could feel it all. So thank you for bringing that up. And tonight, what I'd like to do, this is an auspicious time in so many ways for me personally too. In 2017, when I received the lamp, I had the opportunity 1 month later to go back to Africa and to teach and to give my first Dharma talk on the motherland. Wow. And so during that talk, I shared what I call our ancestral insights that come for me from hindsight through the ancestors' eyes. And so the things in my life that occurred that I maybe didn't understand, suddenly there was understanding, because I wasn't looking through just my eyes. I was looking through the eyes of the ancestors, not just mine, but yours too. Okay, because I do believe that, as we've heard and Rhonda said so beautifully tonight, our ancestors have already been getting on. It's us trying to catch up. Our ancestors are both transitioned, walking on, as they'd say in the Native American culture, and they're also alive right here, right now. Did you know that you're an ancestor? Did you know that you're also a descendant? And if you have children or young ones close to you, did you know that they are ancestors to their younger siblings, to those that they teach, to those that they embrace? Isn't that marvelous? That our little ones, often we think of the elder, the one that came before, but sometimes we, as a, quote, younger in age, may be the elder in terms of experience, mentorship, etc. And there are times, I want to pull this out. There are times when our younger siblings walk on before us. And what a gift it is to have whatever time's remaining once a diagnosis is made. And what I'm wearing is something that Tara Trudell made for me. Those of you from the indigenous nations maybe recognize the name Trudell. Her father was quite an activist. And her way of healing and giving back is to create beads. These 2 beads are simply the name of my brother, Bruce Randolph. She types them on an old-fashioned typewriter. She cuts them, and she uses the paste and the glue, and she rolls them up, and then she puts them together. When she gifted that to me, needless to say, I cried, inside and out. And so now my brother Bruce is my ancestor. And he's on that altar with my elder brother and parents. At this stage in my life, I have lost half my nuclear family. Or I'd just say loss, you don't understand what I mean in that regard, but I've also gained, because I feel like I'm in touch with them and my other ancestors, our other ancestors, all the time. And so I have a little project that I want you to help me with. And I thought, well, how could I do this a little bit different tonight? And I'm going to tell you some of these stories, and you're going to help me. So I have a hat here, cone hat, that I might have to borrow back, but it just depends on which stories come up. And you'll pick a story, and I'm going to share that one with you. Okay? So who would like to go first? Okay? You raised your hand, come on up.
Writing and what the ancestors say about that.
Okay. So one day, I was I believe I was in New Hamlet, and I wanted to be able to write something. I wanted to write an article, and I was really excited because I had this insight, and I didn't quite know how it was going to come, but I was gung-ho. So I had the little pen and my little paper, and I was ready to go. I was ready to go. Come on, let's go. And nothing was happening. And I thought, well, what's wrong? I got this story I really want to tell. I really need to tell. And what do you think came through? Beloved ancestor said, girl, you know better than that. You know we are folk of oratory. And we tell stories. And you can't write nothing down before you've told the story. Don't you know it has to come from the heart to the hand? It doesn't go from the head to the paper. And I thought, well, how? Gotta go tell the story. I said, okay. What can I do? Well, you met beloved sister Kyra Jewell today. And she was with me for a time at the New Hamlet. And I said, sister, this is going to really sound strange, but I need to write an article for Mindfulness Bell. And I have to tell it first. I can't write it. I have to tell it first. I said, can I tell you the story? And she said, of course. And so I am going to share that story with you. I have a few little props here. I'm going to ask one of my Vietnamese sisters to come up. Maybe Sister Hao Nguyen, would you assist me, or Sister Nguyen An? So what I'm holding in my hand is a headscarf, which is part and parcel to the uniformity of our attire. And I'm going to ask my sister to put it on and show you how beautiful that she will look when she has on this. Go with me, go with me, go with me. So I'm not good at it either. And so, you know, for about the first year, I had this scarf on, and I looked in the mirror, and I went, you know, trying to put it, see how she doing? Trying to make it look as beautiful. Just go with the flow. Make it look as beautiful as I thought my sisters looked in it. But for some reason, when I saw this scarf on me, I didn't like it. It made me feel uncomfortable, and I didn't know why. So I continued, you know, for a year to wear the scarf, despite the fact I felt uncomfortable in it, and I just didn't think it looked right. And then one day, I looked in the mirror and I asked, why? Please tell me why. Why don't I look as beautiful as my sister? Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that gorgeous? But when I looked in the mirror, and she's scurrying off, okay, you can go. But you can see the front, the side, the back. You have to model now that you're off stage. Turn around. Beautiful, yes? But do you know, when I asked that question, why? Do you know what was reflected back to me? Aunt Jemima. Aunt Jemima. And I went, oh. And I knew instantly what it was. It's going to take me a minute to unpack it. And I thought, oh my, I can't look like Aunt Jemima. When I was a young girl, I grew up in the 70s, and, we didn't wear scarves like that. We didn't wear anything that reminded us of what we know to be our iconic history because of what we were taught about it. You don't want to look like Aunt Jemima. You don't want to be like Step and Fetch It, right? You don't want to be like Rasper. You don't want to be like Uncle Ben's. All of those were nay. But when I looked in that mirror and I realized Aunt Jemima, and I looked deeply, and I looked beyond the mirror because I had the help of my ancestors. She was my ancestor, right? All of those icons that we see when we walk down the aisleway in the grocery store. And I saw the truth. I saw that Aunt Jemima, Step and Fetch It, Uncle Ben's, all of them played the role. They shucked and jived, and they did what they had to do to keep alive, keep themselves alive so that their ancestors would be proud that they did what they had to do to keep their children alive. And when I had that insight, I went, oh, well, now that's a different kettle of fish. And when I put my headscarf on and I looked in the mirror, I'd say, how you doing, Aunt Jemima? And when I'd walk down the aisle of the grocery store, I said, hey, how y'all doing? I'm waving to the food. People must have thought I was crazy. But I knew what was behind that food. And it helped me to see more deeply and to know that I was taught as best as could be, given where we were at that time. And I understood that too. There was no anger. There was awareness. We quite didn't understand ourselves because of the way this country has grown and on whose backs it grew, which are all the folk in this room, in one way or another. So I have to tell you now, even though my head gets a little hot at this stage of life, when there had been a call for a scarf, I very gladly wore it. Thank you so much. And who would like to pick another story? Was there up here? Anybody else want to pick?
Black Buddha story in New Hamlet.
Ah, thank you. Some of my best stories, insightful stories, come obviously from being in the monastery because that's where I had a chance to practice looking deeply and having, well, I had big fear, but I had to grow big trust in what I was seeing in myself, what I thought I saw in others, and how that could be reconciled. So in the New Hamlet, there is a meditation hall that's upstairs. It's called the Floating Cloud Meditation Hall. And we had just got finished with a meeting. And my dear sister, Sister Yuingim, she had a moment. I could just see the flashes go off in her eyes. And she looked out of the window and she said, Angim, come look. And I looked and I said, okay. Yes, sister, what is it? She said, look. And I said, what's there? She said, do you see the Buddha? I said, yes, I see the Buddha. And she said, did you know that the Buddha is your brother? I said, what? Really? And I'm looking and peering at the Buddha. And she said, and you know why? I was afraid to ask why, but I did. I said, why? She said, because he's black. And I looked and I said, you are right. He is black and he is my brother. And know that in every plum village around the world, there are black lava Buddhas from Indonesia. And when she pointed with all her might, and she was so happy, she was like, yeah, I said, you're right. And at that instant, there was no anger as it could have been. It could have been misinterpreted, right? If I had not been where I was at that moment. I'm like, what you talking about? But no. I said, thank you, Sister Ying. And I looked back out that window, and I saw that black Buddha, and I said, hello, brother. And that was the beginning of my own personal relationship with the Buddha. How about you?
Chicken story and the day I asked why.
So, you know, in our tradition, many traditions, we are vegetarian. And there was a time, I have to go back a little bit, when I was living in Washington, D.C., and I decided to take a yoga class. And the teacher, I'll never forget her name was Kirsten, and she was really a yogi. She taught us not only the physical aspect of it, but the spiritual aspect of it. And every week we would have some conversation that most of the time always came back to what? Vegetarianism, right? Right. And we talked about it, and we went back and forth, and then there was a 2-week break. And she challenged us. She said, during this 2 weeks, I want you to give up, just for 2 weeks, one meat product. Fish, red meat, pork, chicken, whatever. Just give it up for 2 weeks. And so I said, okay, I can do that. And at the time, I was struggling in my 20s with near ulcer. So I'm taking Tagamet and red meat, right? I ate everything back then. And 2 weeks later, I said, now, I was better. I didn't have to take Tagamet for 2 weeks. And I said, now, what do I do? Do I keep this and, throw out both the Tagamet and the meat so that I can be healthy? And that's what I did. I took a year to get off of red meat. Unbeknownst to me, I was planning on being pescatarian, but fish actually left on its own, swam away. That happens sometimes once you give up one type of meat. But the hardest one was what? Chicken. Chicken, chicken, chicken. 5 years, I white-knuckled it. I am not going to eat any chicken. I'm vegetarian. And then I had to break down. And I went to Popeyes. Y'all know what I'm talking about, right? And not just chicken, red beans, and rice. Biscuit. But still, I was a little disappointed with myself because I thought, why? What's up with this? Why? And one day, I went back to my familial home, and actually no one was there, which was strange with 6 kids and two parents still alive. And I walked into the kitchen. I don't know what something took me over, and I stood in the kitchen and I said, why give up chicken? I mean, with all my heart and soul and intent, why? I just didn't understand. And suddenly, I was only as high as you are sitting. And I was looking over the stove. And it was like a Thanksgiving day, so all the matriarchs were there, my mama, grandmas, aunts, auntie from next door, the ones. And what were they cooking? Chicken. What kind of chicken? Fried chicken, baked chicken, chicken and dumpling, chicken soup, chicken. And it hit me. And I thought, that's it. All those gals, Mama, Grammy, Grandma Nanny, Aunt Jack, Aunt Gladys, Aunt Wee Wee, they all were gone. All my mamas were gone. They had transitioned. So what did I learn from this insight? It wasn't the chicken itself that I was missing. It was my mamas. And once I had that insight and I knew what it was, what do we learn in the practice? What cause? Right? Looking deeply with understanding and compassion. Okay. It still took me a while, but with time, I was able to let go of the chicken, but realized I didn't have to let go of the memories. I didn't have to let go of them. By this time, I'm in France, and I'm moving through Deauville, the little township that's near New Hamlet, and I would see the rotisserie chicken. And you know what? I could look at it, and I'd go up to it, and I'd go, hi, y'all. How you doing? Hey. Just like with Aunt Jemima, I could say hello to all my mamas. And that olfactory memory, that olfactory insight to what I was really and truly missing. And I could stop being hard on myself. I could heal that piece, begin healing that piece, and then in time, I could disassociate. I didn't want to eat the meat, but I sure did love those memories. I think I maybe have time for a couple more. Anybody else like to choose?
Cone hat and the African bag.
All right. Thank you. So, I'm going to have to borrow this hat. And the last two I'll just put here. I don't know if we have time. You're going to be my prop. Would you mind wearing the hat for me? Or you can hold it. You can hold it. You know how we hold it on our. Yes, that's good. Oh, you don't have to stand up. African bag, cone hat. So, in the new hamlet, and actually, I hope with all the time that I've been in the monastery, I have tried to be so open and receiving of whatever would come, because I knew it was really perhaps said in just not understanding and just not knowing, and that too was okay. And I thought I'd take it as an opportunity to learn and to teach. And this is one of those. So I had just been to Africa, so what was I doing, walking around at Hamlet with my African bag? I was so, oh wow. As you can see, this isn't exactly a bag, it's my computer cover, but sort of works for now. And I was so happy with it. And one day, a sister came along with the cone hat on her arm. And she said, "Screw up your face." And yeah, my beloved sisters often wouldn't say something, but they would point. And I said, "What? What's wrong?" Not monastic. Oh, really? Not monastic? Oh. And I said, "Sister, what's that?" She looked, and I said, "Is that from your ancestor?" And she said, and I said, "What'd I say? What'd I say? What'd I say? My ancestor." I was a good influence sometimes. However, the next day, the little young one that witnessed all this came. It wasn't bright like this, but it was green. It wasn't brown. And she said, "And yeah," and I went. Got to mix it up a little bit. So we have two more. Do I have enough time? I've got about 5 more. Okay. 2 more. Anybody want to pick? Okay, you take that one, and you take this one.
The elements are our ancestors too. Be arrested by flowers, see glacier in Alaska, and the lessons on grief.
So, we all know. We have a tendency to think that we are, as humans, the only ancestors, but we also know that isn't true, right? Because Who was here before anything? Anybody? Who was here? Hint. Hint. Earth. Our Mother Earth is our most ancient ancestor. Next to the cosmos. Anyway, I won't go that far. And I was right here in Magnolia Grove. And I saw the most brilliant, beautiful rose. I was just walking by. And there it was. The sun was at just the right position so that it became luminous. And it pulled me in. And it pulled me in. And if it were a bell, I would have fell in it. But I did in a way. Time suspended. It was rapturous beauty and oneness. It's one of those occasions where I actually felt like an interbeing with this plant, with this rose. And if you get a chance, you can hear it. There's a jazz musician, his name is Aaron Deal, and he plays the Ellington rendition of The Petal of a Rose. You listen to that song, and you'll have some idea. But better yet, we're at the height of the beauty of the azaleas, few roses. In fact, there's a beautiful rose right in front of the beloved community statue. And I encourage you to go out and allow yourself to be arrested by a flower. Maybe a tree. I have, like our brother said, believe. I believe in trees. And when I was going through, I lived with my brother the last 2.5 months before he died, and I would go to the park and I would just lean up next to a tree and say, please take it and give it to me. So there's the strength to continue. And now, just here by the Mississippi, there's some beautiful trees. I just lean up next to them saying, oh, my lower back's hurting, can you take it? And I'd lean up next to it, and guess what? I believe, so it went away. Being arrested, being healed, it really is the same thing, but just a little drama. And I want to tell you something else about nature, how profound and big it is. I had the occasion last year to go to Alaska for 2 weeks, and it was beautiful. Flying into Fairbanks and then driving our way down with a Dharma teacher, Diane, Little Eagle, and the Sanghas through Anchorage, and we ended up in Homer. And Homer is at the tip of the peninsula. And there's something extraordinary in Homer. And it's called a spit. And it's a piece of land that stretches out about 4 miles from the peninsula. And I couldn't fathom it. And I said to the guide, I said, wait. How did this happen? How did this little strip of land that's not any longer than a football field get here and go 5 miles out into the inlet? He said, well, many millennia ago, and up in Alaska, what are there many of? Glaciers. The glaciers, back in the day when they were actually much closer to the water than they are now, because they've receded for any number of reasons. And the glaciers were so big and so deep that they scraped the bottom of the ocean. So when they moved, they literally scraped like a gigantic caterpillar. And it scraped like, and the land over so many years finally came to break the water. And there was air, and there was sun, and the land grew literally. It widened and it lengthened. And when I heard this story, I just went, ugh. And I felt, that's what the grief inside me feels like. I had just lost my brother a few months before, but it was nice to know that I felt like something scraping the bottom of my heart. Because I walked with him step by step, breath by breath, to the edge of the veil, where I had to say goodbye, or until we meet again. And hearing that story of the spit and imagining something scraping, yeah, that's the hard part, but guess what? It comes up, breaks that water, gets that air and that sun, and it heals and it grows flowers that you can be arrested by. And I think we have maybe one more.
Showing me the cotton fields in Mississippi at the Hermitage.
Thank you. Let me have just a piece of water. Speaking of my baby. So, I believe it was the first time I was here, 2013 for those, yeah. It was Ty's last retreat, first and last retreat actually here. This beautiful hall was built. And some of the monastics, myself and a few others, got with the filmmakers, who some of you will remember the film Walk With Me, and also the new 20 or 30 minute film on Ty's life that just dropped on, I think, YouTube or something like that. Very talented filmmakers. And we thought we were on our way to Ole Miss to not get in any trouble, but, at least maybe find some iced tea, some sweet tea. On the way there, can you imagine what I saw? It was in season. Cotton. And they said, oh, we should pull over. Is it okay, Sister Peace? Yeah. It was the first time that I had entered a cotton field. And they filmed what had happened. And I went back and, everybody sort of heard about it. Even Ty heard about it, and Sister Chan Kong. And they asked, when we are so lucky, if we happen to be in Plum Village, we have a chance to have a meal with Ty and Sister Chan Kong at least twice on our rest day. And so it was my turn to be there and to help drive and bring the food. And so Sister Chan Kong says, oh, we saw the video. Have you seen it? And I said, no. I'm okay. I haven't seen it. And why not? Why not? It's a really good clip. And I could have seen it weeks before, but I chose not to. And Ty very quietly gets up from the table and he walks into the room where his computer is. And then he comes back and says, "Angam, Shuko." Okay. He placed me in front of the computer. He had brought up on the computer what they had put together, this little piece. I don't know, I must have been ready to see it then, but it was quite a moment when I was going through it. And the sun was setting on the cotton fields as I walked through. As I was able to touch the cotton ball on the plant and just look at it, and to see so much pain and suffering, and tears began to fall down my face. And I turned around and I walked out of the field. And what came to me much later, because it took me a minute to process it, and I later reported it to the filmmakers so they'd have something to put over it. And that's what Ty and Shuko heard. And at that time, or I should say time suspended. It just dissipated. At once, I was in the past, I was in the present, and in the future at the same time. And what came up for me was, thank you, ancestors, for staying alive long enough for me to stand here, hold this cotton, and be able to choose that I wanted to be a nun. I wanted to practice mindfulness. I wanted to do what I could to help others. And I could barely contain myself when I saw it. And Ty didn't need to say anything. He just gave a wonderfully approving look, as only Ty could do. And I thought, well, okay. And just an interesting note, they weren't sure whether to put that or another piece in the Walk With Me film. And I'm grateful, though, that they chose to honor my dad, who passed in 2017. And I have cotton in my apartment in Memphis. I bought the little tea towels, with cotton, because, cotton is king in these parts. Big history. But I remembered it for what opportunity it gave me. So, dear brothers and sisters and siblings, thank you so much for your presence. Thank you for listening me go on about these stories. And I hoped that there's something in them that resonates with you. More importantly, that you will begin to look deeply and embrace your stories and your insights and call upon the ancestors, okay? And once, I have to tell you this, I thought, I'm calling on the ancestors. One day I heard, and I said, oh, finally, you heard me. No, child, we've been here all along. This is you, wasn't us. Okay, I got you. So thank you so very much. I hope I'll have a chance to share more with you these next few days in the retreat.